everybody. Welcome to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. This is Tim Jasma.
And this is Kim.
And before we start this week, wanted to give a shout out to the good folks. Their Twitter handle is BVWKR Union, the Burgerville Workers Union. Why are we talking about them right now?
They are on strike.
They indeed are. From what I've read, it looks like they're the first fast food union that has actually gone on strike.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's, coming from Michigan, I've, have family members who have been union their entire lives,
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen good examples of what unions can do. I've seen bad examples of what unions can do. I do think we are in a spot, especially over the past 40 years, of where employers have gotten way too much power over employees, and they're controlling the conversation in terms of, how people react. Most people's reaction when they think of a union at a burger shop is, that's a job for teenagers. I'm sorry, but any job that hires somebody to work a full-time position, if they're working 30 to 40 or more hours per week, they should earn enough to have the basic necessities of life. They should not be, going on welfare. They should not, stuff like that.
I would agree with you. If you're working 40 hours a week and it's minimum wage, you should still be able to afford the basics.
Yeah,
and that was the whole point of establishing a minimum wage way back when.
Yeah, and basically, we're in a spot to where, the people, the citizens of this country really have to start reconsidering, who they support. For the longest time, again, at least the past 40 years, if not a little bit longer, the whole talking points has been shifted towards supporting businesses. When you have places like Walmart and places like Burgerville now that are essentially passing off any potential money that they should give to the employees to their customers. Because if you think about it, you shop at Walmart, you shop at Burgerville, you may save some money when you do that initial shopping there, but you're paying for it by, every time one of those employees has to go and get public assistance, you're paying extra for that, when that company could just take a few shekels out of their pocket and toss it their employees' way. Imagine what it would be for a company to actually treat their employees with respect.
Yeah, and as some people know, I recently did a little Twitter rant about health insurance because I had to do open enrollment through my company.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that the Burgerville workers are concerned about is health insurance, because the price of health insurance just keeps going up, and more employers are shifting more of the costs onto the employees, which is, it's great if you're making like 60, 70, 80K a year, but most of us aren't. Most of us are working at a somewhat minimum level. We're making 30, 40K a year at the most. And when you're making that little and you're trying to support your family, every little bit helps. And when you have an insurance plan where you have to spend $1,800 out of your own pocket before the health insurance actually kicks in, yet your employer is telling you that they're a $1 billion company, well, that just doesn't sound right to me.
No, it's ridiculous. We need some major changes in this country, and one thing that the average citizen can do is to help their other average citizens out. So again, go to the Burgerville Workers Union Twitter. That's at BVWKR Union. You'll see some information there for a GoFundMe they have set up for the striking Burgerville workers. The GoFundMe is being set up to offset any sort of financial losses they have, because they are taking a major risk doing this.
They are. It's one of, like Tim said, it's one of the first, if not the first, fast food union in the country to go on strike. And yeah, it's tough because Burgerville employees tend to make more than most other fast food employees. That's why they work there. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, this sends a message to other fast food restaurants that you really need to start treating your workers better. And generally, as customers, we should be treating the workers better too.
Especially, too, since it was reported yesterday that during the strike at one of the locations they're striking at, some members of the Proud Boys came and tried to interrupt that, and it's it's not confirmed, it is alleged, but from what it looks like, they could have potentially have been sent there to break up that strike. Which
I don't know if they were sent there. It's probably the leader probably just got a wild hair.
And that's why I said alleged. I want to make it clear. If it turns out not to be the case, I'll be the first to come out and say otherwise. Well, I'm just going by what I read, and if I'm wrong, I am wrong. I'll put
it's a big local issue, and the leader of the Proud Boys, who happens to live where we live here in Vancouver.
Oh, great.
But, yeah, he has a tendency to jump on if there's going to be press there, if there's going to be media attention, he shows up.
He's a whore. Okay.
No, he's not. Don't
whore.
degrade sex workers like that. Don't compare.
You're right.
Don't compare that guy.
To all the sex workers, I apologize. All right. Let's get to the show at hand here. Now,
yes.
one word of warning here before we begin. Kim is recovering from sickness.
Yeah, I picked up a really terrible cold. Of course, like 2 days after I get my flu shot to help not get sick. I get a cold.
Now let's kill one fantasy right out of the box here.
Getting a flu shot does not mean you're going to immediately get sick. This was coincidence because it so happens on the day that I got my flu shot, I was also errand day. And I went to about 4 or 5 different places and running around, doing stuff, getting stressed out, blah, blah, blah. I got sick. It happens.
Yeah.
And when I told a couple people today, I went out and got my hair cut today. Exciting news, I know. But no, I was talking to my stylist and he's like, "Oh, is it that crap that's going around that I got, that everybody's got?" And I'm like, "Okay, because it's not just me."
Yeah.
There's a nasty cold going around. It sticks in your throat. It makes your voice all yucky, and I missed 2 days of work, which isn't good.
Yeah, at times you sounded like an 80-year-old Jewish woman who goes through 2 lighters a day because she smokes too much.
Yeah, I know. I definitely was putting on my 8 packs a day voice a couple of times, but yeah, I'm getting better. So yeah.
Okay. So the show at hand. This month turns out it is the 25th anniversary of one of my favorite movies, so I thought we'd talk about it. Okay. That movie is Pulp Fiction.
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that movie too. I got good memories.
Well,
good memories.
Let's hear some of those memories.
Okay, so the weekend that this movie came out, what year was it that it came out?
94.
Okay, so I was in college then, and I was up in Portland with my roommate / best friend at the time, and we were going to see, oh gosh, what band was it? I don't even remember the name of the band.
Just Lion Sales Nirvana.
No,
it was 94. It couldn't have been.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't Nirvana. Okay. No. Anyway, we were in town.
It was the fucking Beatles.
No. We were in town to see a band, and we had actually we show up to the venue, and we had pre-gamed in the car, which meant we were stoned out of our minds. So we're stoned out of our minds, and we're in Portland, and we're showing up to this venue, and we were not on the list like we were supposed to, because we worked for the college radio station, so they always put us on the list for free tickets and stuff.
Right.
Because then we'd plug the show and give away tickets on the radio station. We'd been doing that all week, yet I still can't remember the name of the band, probably because this became Pulp Fiction night. Because we're stoned out of our minds. We know that there's no way that we can drive back to Corvallis this baked. So what do? We very carefully drive over to the Lloyd Cinemas, see what's playing. Because we're like, we'll just go see a movie and then we'll get some dinner and then we'll drive back.
Was it the same building that's still there?
Yep. The same building that's still there. And we went and saw Pulp Fiction.
Nice.
And yeah, let me tell you, if you don't know what you're going to expect, we were just like, oh, this movie looks interesting. Let's go see it. Yeah. Don't go see movies like this when you're stoned out of your mind. I mean, we were way beyond stoned. It was to another level stoned. I don't know what was in that marijuana that we had, because this is before dispensaries. So, oh my goodness.
Could have been PCP or something.
I don't know, but oh, good Lord.
Well, I gotta say, I saw it on VHS. Extremely dating myself.
You never
there.
saw that on the big screen?
No, that's one of the last. That's one of the last films that Batman, Superman, The Wizard of Oz. Those are 4 films that I need to see on the big screen yet.
You haven't seen Wizard of Oz on the big screen?
No.
Okay, next time it comes to town, we're gonna go see that.
That's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I know. That's why we're gonna do that.
But Pulp Fiction, man, that is, before that, I mean, there's really a dividing line in terms of the entertainment I liked, and Pulp Fiction is really it. I mean, I've always kind of dabbled in goofy schlock stuff. I remember as a kid growing up, I would, every Friday night, the USA Network would show repeats of like old trauma movies, so like The Toxic Avenger and whatnot. I love those, but, Tarantino found a way to make high art out of schlock. And it was definitely a defining moment for me. I mean, because I know that with like the book I've written, there's a lot of Tarantino influence in there.
Yeah, there is.
She's read it, so it's one of the few people. No, it's just the performances overall.
And just the twists and the turns in the plot. I mean, the whole scene from beginning to end with like the Gimp and Bruce Willis and the Marcellus Wallace, and it just kept twisting and turning, and I just remember just sitting there with my mouth open, just like what, and then what just happened?
And this was at a time where Tarantino was still
pretty underground. There was no internet.
Yeah,
no internet. It was all word of mouth, and I know that I had seen some of Reservoir Dogs at some point before this, but
this was still like
I was a big stoner at the time, so there's a lot of portions of college that I remember in bits and pieces because we'd like rent movies and then we'd get like really drunk or really stoned and then we'd try to watch a movie, and then so there's a lot of movies from the 90s where it's bits and pieces, but Pulp Fiction I've seen sober as well. So
the thing that I noticed too is that that's still the time where he was inventive with his casting, because it seemed like after Kill Bill, anything after Kill Bill, he started relying a lot more upon A-list stars, and nothing wrong with an A-list star, but you look at some of like Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, just a lot of the inventive, out of left field casting that was amazing. Like at the time for Pulp Fiction, nobody really knew who Samuel L. Jackson was.
Yeah, and he gave
on a big scale. On a big scale,
and he gave John Travolta a career again.
Sadly, but
John Travolta has his issues, like Scientology, for example.
It's not even that. I just, some people. I don't think he's as talented as people think he is. I think with the right material, he's great, but the same could be said for much any actor.
I was gonna say, isn't that pretty much true of any actor? You give them decent material, and they can do a good job.
Yeah, I mean the best actors, the great actors are the ones that can, like Ian McDiarmid, who was the Emperor in the Star Wars films. Yeah, he was in my opinion, one of the few good parts of the prequels.
Yeah, he can turn dog shit into gold, pretty much.
So, and that's one thing I really appreciated, and then like the Ezekiel 25:17 speech.
Oh my God! Yeah, there's so many great.
Yeah.
Excuse me, so many great moments in this movie. It's crazy.
And I loved it too because it did have a decent. The female characters were decent. They weren't two-dimensional. They weren't there to simply look good. I'm not saying the presentation was totally perfect. Mia Wallace, for instance, there's a slippery slope there, but I think of Honey Bunny at the beginning. Any of you fucking pigs move, and Alexa, I loved her character.
Yeah, there's. I can't remember the name of the character. Bruce Willis's girlfriend character.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. She was in Henry and June.
Yeah, I wish her character would have been a little bit more fleshed out. Because I didn't.
But I know. I think I know what you're talking about with her character.
She just seemed really vacant.
But you gotta read between the lines, because there was one, like, she was kind of giving the impression that she was oblivious to the danger they were in.
Mm-hmm.
But then before he goes to sleep in the hotel after the big fight, she does, mention, we're in big trouble, aren't we? I think she's very much aware of the danger she's in. She's just scared and trying to essentially block it out.
Okay.
That's how I picked up that character.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite scene from that movie?
It's hard to pick because that movie is, there's the dancing in the cafe.
Mm-hmm.
That's like iconic. That's kind of one of those iconic movie scenes now. Yeah. People think of it as kind of iconic because that was, just the whole idea of like taking your boss's wife out on a date, basically. And then they show up at this weird 50s cafe. It was just a whole lot of one weird thing after another weird thing and then stringing together. And then there's the whole speech with the cheeseburger in the apartment where they're scaring the kids.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, takes a big bite. He's like, this is a damn good burger.
Yeah.
Whatever it was he said.
Yeah, who was that?
Samuel L. Jackson.
No, I know that. Who else? Phil Lamar was in that scene as well, who is a major voice actor, does Hermes in Futurama, does a bunch of other voices as well. What is her name? The Arquette who recently...
Patricia Arquette.
No, not Patricia.
Oh, Alexis.
Yeah, Alexis Arquette was... before she transitioned, she was the gentleman that was hiding in the bathroom in the apartment that came out and shot the guns.
And then none of the bullets hit, and then...
Yep, and then it's funny because her sister, Rosanna Arquette, is in the scene with Mia
drug
Wallace,
overdose.
with the adrenaline and whatnot. She,
that scene, too, also just the look on her face while she's watching Eric Stoltz, like...
Yeah, just...
she's all like, do it. And it's just like... Yeah, that whole scene. Yeah, we need to watch this movie again. Maybe we should suggest to the Hollywood or someone that they do a big screen showing.
Well, it depends on who owns it now because because if Disney still has access to the Miramax film library, then
I guess it's going on the Disney Plus app.
Or they're just keeping it locked up because there was a Vulture article too about repertory theaters or independent theaters being told that they couldn't view any 20th Century Fox films now.
Okay.
So stuff like Die Hard, Aliens, you're not going to be able to see that anymore in a local movie theater. But anyway, back to Pulp Fiction. For me, I would say my favorite section of the movie would have to be the Vincent Vega and Mia Wallace section. I loved it because there was a lot of flirting going on between the two, but it ultimately just became... It was flirting, but then they became friends at the end. They shared an experience. I thought it was really touching, when she, does that bad joke at the end, like Mama Tomato, Daddy Tomato, and Baby Tomato are walking, and the Father Tomato steps on the Baby Tomato and says, "Catch up." And then she walks away, and then Travolta just, blowing her the kiss like she did. I loved that. I loved that scene.
Yeah, that was a good scene. That whole sequence was pretty good. It was really well filmed too.
Yeah, and Uma, that was the first time I really saw her in a film, even though she'd done some work in the past. Much like a lot of people in that film, but just. It's a classic. I can't believe it's 25 years
25 years.
My
Jeez.
God. I do remember, too, back in 94, I was still pretending to be a Christian at the time. And, the youth group I went to, the leader of the youth group said, she'd I went to see this movie, Pulp Fiction, and I was laughing throughout, but it really troubled me because of all the violence. And it's like, it's a fucking movie. Calm down, I don't get people like that.
I don't know.
Because
it is what it is. People have faith for many different reasons.
Yeah. Anyway. You were reading a book this week.
Yeah. Speaking of religion, I'm sure most of you have heard of The Handmaid's Tale, probably because of the series that they did on Hulu. Mm-hmm. I have not watched that entire series. I hear it's very good. I've watched the first few episodes, and I was having a little trouble with the differences from the book. Because I I read The Handmaid's Tale back in the early 90s, and I've reread it many times through the years. And it's one of those books that's very high on my list of absolute best books of all time. Mm-hmm. And so, anyway, recently, Margaret Atwood, the author, she wrote a sequel. The original was released in 1985, and she just now wrote a sequel.
She's doing a Stephen King route like you did with the Dark Tower series.
No, I don't see that. It's just, I think it was a very important book. It's, The Handmaid's Tale won prizes. It was the first winner of the Arthur C. Clarke Award. It was nominated for the Nebula Award. And it was an important book for its time, and the movie that they made from it was very good, I thought. A lot of people didn't really like it, or they thought it was dark and disturbing, but the subject matter is very dark and disturbing, which is basically the subjugation of women for a government based on religion. And it's not pleasant to think about, but it's still one of my favorite books just because it's a cautionary tale, and that's the whole point of it. So Margaret Atwood wrote a sequel called The Testaments, which I read this week. It just recently came out. It won the Booker Prize this year, and actually it tied for the Booker Prize, which has only happened like a couple of times before. So it hasn't happened since 1992. So she won the Booker Prize for it. Very well deserved. This book is amazing. It's going to tie up a lot of loose ends for people who are familiar with the first book and the TV series, probably. I really need to watch the rest of the TV series because it's gone on for 3 seasons now, and it's been re-upped for the 4th season.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and as we were discussing, and I'm sure people in the audience already know, with Disney Plus coming out, Disney owns Hulu as well, and there's going to be package deals to where you can get Disney Plus and Hulu together.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to do that.
Yeah, it'll definitely be worth it because I think most of the stuff we watch will be on there anyway.
Yeah, but The Testaments, it follows Aunt Lydia. It follows the daughters of the original Handmaid. It was a very good read. I was literally on the edge of my seat for like the last bit of the book. I was just like, I couldn't put it down. Yeah. I was slow at work. I was reading it when there was nothing else to do. And then I was reading it on my phone. So then I put my phone in my pocket. I go to pick up Tim from work, and I'm waiting for him in the parking lot, just reading. Like, oh my God, I gotta find out what happens next. And then I finished it, and I was like, oh, so good. Yeah, it's a good read. It's not going to make much sense if you haven't read the first book or you haven't seen the series or the movie. And you should read the first book anyway. The first book's amazing.
Now, what inspiration from what's going on in the news today and just in the world today do you think she took for that book?
Pretty much anything the whole Me Too movement, just anything relating to how men are just trying to regulate women's bodies, because in this series, basically the whole reason that they've created the Handmaids is because there's been an outbreak of infertility, and so they're basically trying to find any woman who's fertile and just rope her in and basically make her bear as many babies for as many different men as possible. Yeah. It's gross and it's not fun to think about, but she writes what she likes to call speculative fiction. Mm-hmm. And I call it kind of alternate history. It's in that genre. So you have to be willing to suspend some disbelief, but at the same time, it's a cautionary tale. If we're not paying attention, it could easily happen here.
Look what already happened in 2016 and beyond. There's a lot of stuff that's been changing, for lack of a better term, that a majority of people in this country, no matter where you live, disagree with, but thanks to voting habits or lack thereof, we get these fundamentalist wackos in charge. Mm-hmm. And one thing about the far right and their co-option of religion is that they found a way to kind of blanket it under the term of Christian, when people should be kind of going a little deeper and finding out the source of their religious beliefs. Because there are some, whether I am an atheist, I've said that before, but I will be the first to admit that there are good religious organizations out there, that are looking to actually help people, blah blah blah. But a lot of these places, like Pentecostals with their prosperity doctrine and all that garbage.
Yeah, and then there's the people who believe in conversion therapy for gay kids.
Like that space alien Michelle Bachmann, the evil, evil, evil woman. My God.
Yeah, and in The Handmaid's Tale, it's not just that the women are basically being treated as slaves and property. They're not allowed to read. They're not allowed to own property. They're not allowed to have their own money. It's a scary book, and it can be depressing. Both books, but at the same time, it's good to think about these things, because it all too easily it could happen here.
Because at the end of the day, the way I see it is this too. I mean, I don't care if a person has, if their moral beliefs, say that, women should, not have sex before marriage, that men and women should not have sex before marriage and all that stuff. The problem comes when you have somebody getting into a position of power, imposing their beliefs onto other people. Because again, with that blanket Christian label, you're not looking at the finer details, because what a Pentecostal believes compared to what a Methodist believes, totally different things, 9 times out of 10.
Plus, there's all, under the label of kind of Christian, you've got a whole lot of different sects and beliefs, and like, some Christians love the gays, some Christians hate the gays, some Christians believe in sex before marriage, some Christians don't, and then you've got the Catholics.
If I'd found that religion, I would have stayed. No. No.
Yeah, it's just something that it's good to think about and be aware of.
Yeah.
And I don't think that any rational, reasonable person would think that living in Gilead would be a good thing. I certainly don't.
No. I mean, maybe some uber rich person, but that uber rich person would still find a way to, pay for an abortion somehow or some other crap like that.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. My next. I was thinking this week, I love movies. I love going to the movies.
I do
that's
too.
how we ended up meeting and all that.
Pretty much. That was like our first date. We went and saw Predator at the Laurelhurst. Yeah.
Yeah. And, one of my first memories growing up is going to see E.T. in 1982 with my grandmother. Oh,
God. Yeah. I remember going to see E.T. and having to wait in line and all of that. And
it was at the North Kent Theater by North Kent Mall when the bus still went in that direction.
It was at Eastgate Theater here in Portland.
But, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about the times when you're in a movie theater and you just see that one scene that just gets the goosebumps going, that gets you excited. Just everything is working together to give you one electrifying good scene. Just the emotion in the room. Everything is going good. It feels good,
I know exactly what you mean.
So I did put it out onto my social media outlets and asked some people, if they had some examples. And we did have Anthony Esteves, one of the co-hosts of the Cableless Crusaders. He mentioned one that I will bring up on my list, but the other one that he mentioned is the Saving the Day montage from Ghostbusters.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the one where all the ghosts are flying around in the sky and stuff? Or?
I believe it's that, I believe that's one of the big montage scenes along with the initial. I believe there are two big ones. The one where they first start their work, and you see them busting ghosts. They're on Larry King and all that stuff and whatnots. But I mean, classic movie right there.
Yeah,
good choice.
That's great.
Kim the Geek on Twitter.
That would be me, yes.
Yeah, you mentioned Starship Troopers.
I know, Tim hates this movie, but I absolutely love Starship Troopers. I read the book. The book and the movie, they share a title, and they share a few basic things, but that's about it. But the book, classic, Richard Heinlein.
I saw the movie in theaters. It was
Okay.
One of the worst experiences I've ever had in watching a movie. It was just garbage.
I think you're wrong, because you are.
No. What I meant by garbage is that was my opinion of that film. As always, I acknowledge that enjoyment of a particular art form is subjective. So
Okay.
my
So
opinion
I
is
will agree that there are some parts that are definitely pretty garbagey.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at it for what it was, which was kind of a parody of kind of like war propaganda from like World War II, that sort of thing. Like, do your part for the military, do your part for your country, kind of thing. Which was, if you think about it too hard, it's actually scary. All the sort of I can't say the word because I'm full of cold medicine.
you had Robitussin hooked up to your veins all week.
Pretty much, yeah. Totalitarianism?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Or fascism.
Fascism, yeah. Basically. There's definitely a very fascist thread running through it, which is disturbing, but at the same time, those bug effects were really revolutionary for the time the movie came out. And there's a scene where all of the new army recruits who just want to be citizens, and they're showing up and they've been told that they can just wipe these bugs out, no problem. And all of a sudden, there's just wave upon wave upon wave of bugs coming at them. And they're just like, oh shit. And it was just all those creepy, because the creepy skeleton weird bugs that they made for this movie, they gave me the freaking creeps. It was, I don't know, I got chills and I was just like, oh shit, kind of a moment.
How high were you?
I was not.
I'm kidding.
No, seriously, I wasn't. I love that movie, and
yeah,
I unapologetically love that movie. It's one of my favorite bad movies.
Okay. I mean, I saw Freddy Got Fingered in theaters twice. I saw Spice World in theaters, so I'm not one to argue.
I like Spice World.
I do too. It was fun. One other person on Twitter, their handle at Malin1811, they talked about a movie called Waking Sleeping Beauty. It's a documentary about the artist at Disney.
Oh.
And he mentioned a scene where they talked about lyricist Howard Ashman, who was a producer on Beauty and the Beast as well, and how during, I guess, the filming, he ended up going to the hospital and then died shortly after the film came out. So, but that was his suggestion. But I came up with my own list.
Of course you did.
Of course, yeah. And so I'm going to go down 5-1. We'll discuss it, but number 5 for me is from The Empire Strikes Back. It's the most famous scene in movie history. It's the I Am Your Father scene. What do you think about that?
Oh, God, of course. I mean, I had no idea that was coming. I remember seeing it. I saw it in the theater when I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. I was big into Star Wars when I was a kid. And, yeah, I just remember that happening. I audibly gasped. I was like, oh my God, that kind of a moment. And actually, speaking of Star Wars, one of the things that always gets my tingles going, just seeing the opening credit crawl. The opening crawl.
Yeah.
I just, as soon as I see the crawl and the music starts, I just immediately get the shivers every single time I watch a Star Wars movie.
The past two, The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, the only thing it missed was the 20th Century Fox fanfare. I'm hoping with the purchase of 20th Century Fox that'll be reintroduced for Episode 9. But, as far as The Empire Strikes Back goes, I mean, I didn't see the originals in theaters. I saw the special editions. I
saw those in theaters too.
Yeah, the original special editions I don't have a huge problem with. I don't think it added on too much. I think it was just the right balance of new material and old stuff. But just sitting in the theater, with that scene coming up, and you knew it was coming, but still the audience was just you could feel the energy in that room when it came down to it. And it was one of the reasons I ended up naming my youngest son Luke, just so I could memorize that whole speech.
That has to be one of the most ultimately nerdy things I've ever heard.
I did, and there's a YouTube video, and in our Star Wars episodes, I actually played the audio of that.
That's
So,
right, you did, didn't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely one of the most legitimately nerdy things ever. Name your child Luke just so you can be like, Luke, I am your father.
Not the line. It's no, I am your father. He doesn't say Luke, I'm your father.
All right, whatever.
Anyway, number 4 on the list. Psycho, the original, not the horrible garbage baby that was remade in the 90s with Gus Van Sant. The shower scene.
That's classic for sure.
Yeah, in the late 90s.
That's freaking creepy.
Yeah, in the late 90s in Grand Rapids. I mean, I had seen that movie plenty of times growing up. Psycho was one of the first movies I ever remember seeing. That and Carrie. But in the late 90s, Grand Rapids actually opened up a new museum. Their old building was getting old. I mean, it was high tech in the 50s maybe, but for the 90s it just wasn't good. So they needed to expand, and part of the expansion allowed them to open up essentially a small repertory theater in the museum. And what they I'm assuming they still do. It's been over a decade since I've been back there. Is show some older films.
That's cool.
And one of the films they showed was Psycho, and just. Again, same thing as The Empire Strikes Back. You knew the shower scene was coming, but I loved it too because you can, on the bigger screen, you could see quote unquote mother coming to the curtain. You can see the shadow. Janet Leigh's character doesn't notice, and the tension's there. And just the moment that shower curtain's ripped and Bernard Human's legendary music hits, you're just holding your breath. And what an amazing moment.
Yeah, that is definitely one of those moments that once you've seen it, it just sticks in your head. And people have made variations and parodies and everything of it for so many years now. Last season of Dragula, they did a little parody of it. Because what they do is they exterminate the contestants. So they exterminated one by doing the Psycho shower scene. It was pretty cool.
Okay then.
I always got to bring it back to drag.
Yeah, we'll have to get Andrew Steele on the show and see if we can get some secrets. He already said he would be, so we'll get him on the show here soon. But all right, number 3, Superman the movie. It's the scene where Lois falls out of the helicopter.
Oh yeah.
Where he first the helicopter incident occurs. She's fallen out of the helicopter. Her hat falls off, and that's what he notices first as it falls to the ground. Then the music just and just starts building up. He goes to a phone booth that didn't have. It wasn't the old-fashioned phone booth like the 50s TV show, and I love that little look he gave. And then the iconic running across the street, ripping off his shirt with the Superman logo, just everything about that, and then just flying up and. Easy miss, I've got you, you've got me, who's got you? And
oh gosh, yeah,
everything.
I forgot about that line. That's the perfect line. Oh,
yeah.
Margot Kidder was so amazing.
She so far has been the best actress that has ever tackled Lois Lane, in my opinion.
I agree. Yeah. I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, I mean, not that there have not been good actresses who have played Lois Lane since.
There have been good Lois Lanes, but she was the best.
She's the iconic one, man. All right, number 2, from a film called Rocky Balboa, the training montage.
The very first Rocky?
No, Rocky Balboa. It's essentially Rocky 6.
Oh God, I can't deal with boxing movies. They just bore me to tears.
I've been a fan of the Rocky movies, and they're definitely hit or miss, but this one knew it was playing off of nostalgia, but they played off that nostalgia perfectly.
Okay.
And I loved, Apollo Creed's old trainer was, talking about all the disadvantages that Rocky has on fighting Mason the Lion Dixon during the movie. And then I just loved the bit where he's like, you gotta hit him like a freight train, and so hard that his ancestors will feel it. Yeah, let's go. Let's start making some hurting bombs. And then the Rocky montage training scene music hits, Well,
the music, you can't go wrong with the music. The Rocky music is amazing. And then, of course, Eye of the Tiger. That's a great song.
That was a great song, and that was something I was considering as well, because I really do love that opening montage from Rocky 3, because that first 2 minutes of that movie essentially tell its own movie of, Rocky's, you know, defenses of the title, and you find out that he's been being booked against these chumps, for easy wins in order to, make Rocky look better. And then you got Clubber Lang getting upset, and it tells its own story. It tells like 45 minutes worth of film in that 2-minute period. It's perfect.
So if you can tell 45 minutes of film in a 2-minute period, then why are all the Rocky movies so damn long?
Because a movie is more than just a montage. Because the montage, the story that it was telling in the montage did not need 45 minutes to tell that part. It told enough of that story without having to dive into it.
Well, you know what? I'm going to take your word for it, because I'm not watching the Rocky movies. I'm not watching any of them.
Okay.
All right.
I'm
just drawing a line in the sand that, I'm willing to see some movies with you, but I'm not willing to see the Rocky movies.
Okay, then. Yeah. All right. Whatever. I mean, everybody has their taste. So
yeah.
We'll go to number 1 on my list. We've talked about it on the show before here. It's the portal scene from Avengers Endgame.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just, again, just being in that theater on opening night, just the energy in that room when... Sam Wilson, when you first heard him on the radio, on your left, and then you see the portal opening up, and then everybody's coming out. Like we discussed, logically, Thanos should have just had his spaceship start firing away, and he could have wiped them all out while the heroes were trying to pose. But for 11 years worth of films getting to this moment, they nailed it.
Well, you could also think that maybe he was just a little surprised and a little bit slow.
But then why is he such a notorious bad guy for being that slow?
I don't know.
I mean, with the way they presented him in that film,
I don't know. I think you just need to suspend your disbelief.
And that's again, that's why I fully realize that that's just more of a nitpick. For how it's presented in the movie, it makes total sense and it works. It's perfect. Logically, if it happened in real life, come on, Thanos would have rained fire down, and they all would have been dead before they had a chance to pose.
Every time you say pose, I keep thinking of...
Well, they did pose. Look at...
I know they did, but I keep thinking of Drag Race, like them doing their runways and like getting to the end and posing.
Work it, girl.
Exactly. And so now that is something I would like to see, is a whole like a Saturday Night Live sketch with all the Marvel characters doing a freaking runway on Drag Race. I would pay money to see that.
I do remember that meme that came out after the first Avengers where they kind of flipped it and showed what it would look like if the men were essentially showing
Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah, I've seen those.
And not Black Widow, Mm-hmm. So I've seen stuff like that, but,
Yeah.
Anyway, that is my list. There's a lot more I could throw on there as well. Everybody has one movie or TV show or just one moment in entertainment to where it just grips them, and it doesn't even have to be the greatest movie ever made. It's just...
Is that another dig on freaking Starship Troopers? You're digging on Starship Troopers again.
Not at all.
Doesn't have to be the greatest movie ever. Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
It's just a generalized thing. But it's...
I'm just teasing.
Better be, geez.
I blame the cold medicine.
But anyway, watch films. That's why we...
That's why we watch movies.
Exactly.
Because movies are fun and they make you forget things.
Exactly.
Escapism... It's the only way to get through these days.
Even though Francis Ford Coppola thinks it's despicable.
Oh, well, Francis Ford Coppola can go to hell.
Yeah, well, I mean, I love that Marvel movies are despicable to him, but a child molester isn't,
Yeah.
And for people that don't know, the American Zoetrope, the production company that Francis Ford Coppola owns, produced a film called Jeepers Creepers, and the writer and director, I believe, was arrested when he was 29 for molesting a 12-year-old. And Francis Ford Coppola came out on record stating that, he did his crime, he should be able to work again. No. No.
No.
Maybe at a McDonald's, but not making a Hollywood movie.
Now you're just disparaging fast food workers.
No, I'm not.
First it was sex workers, and now it's fast food workers.
Now you're going to make it to where by the end of the episode, I won't be able to get a hooker or get a burger in this town. What the... I'm not insulting.
You're going to... Excuse me.
We're keeping this in.
It's fine. I know. I sound like... I sound like I've been smoking 6 packs a day for the last... 46 years of my life. Yes, I was smoking at age 1. No, I don't smoke at all. I quit a long time ago. Okay, so now it's on to
our segment of the week.
Show. Yes, this week is my pick, which means we listen to The Head on the Door by The Cure. Yes, The Cure. One of my favorite bands of all time.
And you said Willie Nelson was whiny.
I know. And I've also said that I knew I was a hypocrite for saying that.
Yeah.
I know. So The Cure, just a little bit of background about them. They were formed in 1976 in England, in the town of Crawley, which is in West Sussex.
Mr. Crawley.
28. It's 28 miles south of London, in case you want to know where Crawley is. I had no idea. I looked it up just because I was reading their wiki page, and I just found it interesting.
And if it's on Wikipedia, it must be true. No.
Well, a lot of it's true. You just gotta read it with a grain of salt. So The Cure, formed in 76. This album was released in 1985. It is their 6th album. And it is tied for favorite album of mine by The Cure. Tied with Disintegration. Disintegration was released in 1989. But we're talking about The Head on the Door. This is something that I found when I was in high school. I used to go with my good friends Eric and Lane. We used to go on the weekends. We'd go haunt the downtown record stores and pick up a lot of used records and tapes. And this was just when CDs were starting to become widely available. Mm-hmm. And I first had this on cassette tape, and then it ended up being the first CD I ever bought. This was The Head on the Door. And another fun fact about this, my senior year of high school, I went on an exchange program to Russia for about 2.5 weeks. And we had a sister school in Minsk, which is actually it was Bielorussia. It's now Belarus. But so we went there and we were visiting with some students that had come over and exchanged the year before. And there were a couple of the students that were really into Depeche Mode and The Cure and other stuff like that. So I ended up leaving my Cure tape in Russia.
Moody Russians? What?
I know, stalking. So yeah, I left my Cure tape in Russia with Alexi. He really liked it. I was like, I have this on CD at home. I'm going to give this to you. He was, because he'd been listening. I had let him borrow it, and he was just so excited that I was letting him keep it.
Yeah, The Cure in Russia is like the B-52s in America.
What?
I don't know.
You're not making any sense, Jim. And I'm the one on the cold medicine. So with this album...
The Purple Drink. No.
So most Cure albums, Robert Smith, he's the lead singer and guitarist. He would work with members of the band to write the songs. This album, he was the sole composer. He wrote all the lyrics and all the music. So, 10 tracks. You want to start at the top?
Sure.
First track, In Between Days. I love this song. It's probably my favorite song on the album. And it was the top single.
Yeah, this is the one song on the album I really liked. To me, this kind of was like a precursor for like mid to late 90s pop music, like Sixpence None the Richer type of music.
Well, The Cure has influenced a lot of bands, and they've been around, and they're still making music.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I like about The Cure is that I'm not a big fan of The Cure. I like a couple of their songs. They're not like a greatest hits band for me, but I do, when they do decide to just go all in on just making a goofy, silly, mushy pop song, it's great.
Yeah, they have made quite a few great pop songs, and there's excuse me, there's gosh, I cannot remember the name of it. There's a greatest hits album. There was a bunch of remixes of a lot of their singles. You might like it. You might not. I don't know. It was fun. I liked it. Anyway, In Between Days, yeah, that's easily my favorite song on this album. And it's the first song. So you're just like, I feel like as soon as I hear this song and I know that the rest of the album is still to come, it just makes me happy. I love this entire album so much, and this song is tops on my list.
You start out happy, and then it goes down from there.
Well, it does, it goes up and down, and in a way that's what makes it, in my mind, one of the most perfect albums I can think of, honestly, because the songs go from like happy upbeat to sad to happy upbeat to, it takes you up and down, and it's kind of like, it's like a wave on the ocean. It's the way it's supposed to be. All right, fine. Second song, Kyoto Song.
Oof. It felt whiny and self-important. It just, I couldn't relate to it. That's why why I had the notes that I did. It just, it didn't speak to me at all.
Yeah,
I was glad when it was over.
It's one of those songs. There was a couple songs on this album where you could tell he was experimenting with sounds from other cultures, and there's a reason why it's called Kyoto Song, is because it's got a very kind of Asian, you can hear the Asian influence in it, in the way that the strings are in the background and stuff. But yeah, Kyoto Song, it's rather gloomy. I like it. Yeah, it's not. You haven't heard Disintegration. If you want gloomy.
No, I don't want that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's gloomy, but I like it. I like the way it sounds. Track 3 is called The Blood, and this is one of my favorite songs on the album too, because it's got this flamenco guitar. It just starts right off with that. It's like da 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 da, and it's just like, and then all of a sudden, woo! And you just, oh, it's great. I love this song. The guitar is just amazing.
I did note that I did love the Spanish influence on the guitar, and then he had to sing.
Oh.
It just,
You wound me.
Again, the notes I had here, he was trying to sound profound when it just comes off as pretentious, and then using religious ideas in the songs like he did, it just came off like it was manufactured, like, some 17-year-old and a junior in high school writing a poem to sound deep, but doesn't even understand why he's putting in those images. He just knows that it will get a reaction.
You just described me sitting in my room on a rainy Saturday when I was a teenager, writing in my journal and listening to The Cure.
Okay.
Oh my God, that's funny.
That's so deep.
Well, when you're English, and it's very dreary in England sometimes of the year, and
yeah,
you get in your feelings, and it was the 80s and they were using drugs too, so.
I was watching You Can't Do That on television at this time, so.
Yeah, like 1985, I was in middle school. So actually, I think I was watching You Can't Do That on television. So yeah, I love The Blood. I first heard this song on a mixtape that my friend Robbie made for me. It's like 1990. Oh, I wonder whatever happened to Robbie. He looked just like Robert Downey Jr., like the young Robert Downey Jr.
Robert?
I know. It's crazy. But no, he really did, and he was a hit with the girls. Including me.
You had a shot at that? All right.
Yeah, that's a whole other story altogether. Track 4 is called 6 Different Ways.
I felt it was a mishmash. The music was all right. The lyrics just did not seem to fit with the tempo that the music was setting.
Yeah.
It just felt off.
Yeah, there's a couple songs on this album where the music and the lyrics just seem a little kind of experimental in a way. Mm-hmm. And when I listen to them with a critical ear rather than my my sad teenager ear. It's true. I can hear hints of what was to come in future albums.
Right.
Kind of like how we talked about Nine Inch Nails, how that album was sort of a hint of what's to come and learning the instruments kind of thing. But, this is their 6th album, so by this time they knew their instruments, obviously.
Yeah. All right.
Wow, you sound like me on the last episode.
It's revenge, baby.
I know, it totally is. Okay, so track 5 is called Push.
I felt the intro went on way too long. It reminded me of, you know that song, I Need a Lover, That Won't Drive Me Crazy? Mm-hmm. The John Mellencamp version. He's the one who originally wrote it, and mm-hmm. Pat Benatar ended up covering it. But that intro that he did for that song lasted it's just like this, almost like halfway, almost to halfway to, the song length, just halfway through. All of a sudden, then the song starts kicking in, and that's what happened here. It was just forgettable. I didn't think it was terrible or anything like that. It just,
I like the guitar work on it, personally. I made a note that said harp guitar, so that was the extent of my note. Harp guitar.
Heart.
Yeah, exactly. I love the guitar work on it. Track 6 is called The Baby Screams. Were you screaming, Tim?
No. I mean, the note I wrote, it once again, trying to sound deep but failing miserably. It wasn't as obnoxious as Kyoto Song, but it almost reached it. I don't know. I just, maybe being in my 40s now, hearing someone in their 20s try to talk about something deep, even if they were in their 20s 30 years ago, like in this case, mm-hmm. It's like, no, you need to live a little bit more. Maybe if I listen to his lyrics now, I could probably relate to him a lot better.
Yeah.
But it's just, like an example I've used in the past too, like, the movie Chasing Amy. Good movie about life in your 20s. I just don't want to watch that anymore just because of the, it's too dead on about how, you can be in your 20s.
Yeah, I would agree with you when it comes to that movie. Mm-hmm. It's almost uncomfortable to watch that movie. It's just too relatable.
Yeah. It's
too relatable. But no, I like the baby screams, mainly because of the guitar work again. I really love the way the guitars sound in this, but I like the way that he sings it, because he's all just kind of builds up. It's like, when the baby screams. Yeah, I love that. He does it better than I do, because, he hasn't, lost his voice, and hasn't been coughing his lungs out for the last week. Yeah, pretty much. It sounded like he's been coughing up hairballs, and, yeah. All right, track 7 is Close to Me. This was another single that came off this album. It's a pretty well-known song. I like it. It's not my favorite single of theirs, but I like this song a lot.
I thought the music was okay. The lyrics, on the other hand, and how he sang the lyrics in that song just didn't mesh with, again, the tempo of the music. It just felt off, like he was trying to sing a different song to a different set of lyrics, and
I always thought that. I like the song, but I've always thought that about this song too, that the lyrics just seem kind of off. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with you on that one. Okay, so track 8 is called A Night Like This, and this is a song I like it, but at the same time, if I can, I skip it, just because this was on the mixtape that Robbie made me as well, and it just, I don't know, there's just something about it that just kind of makes me a little bit sad, and I prefer to skip it and just go right into Screw.
Yeah. For this, I think the opening did sound kind of like a lot of early Def Leppard.
Really?
It did. We're talking kind of before Hysteria, kind of like the Photograph album or before, just kind of, in a way, not like a rip-off or anything like that. I just, almost expected Joe Elliott to, pop out and start singing with them, But other than that...
Oh my god, a Def Leppard Cure crossover? mishmash song. Oh, that
There
would
have been
be
weirder things that have happened. I mean,
that's true.
Like Quantum of Solace, Jack White and Alicia Keys singing together. You wouldn't think on paper that would be good, but it, turned out to be.
I could see that.
I dug that song. But yeah.
Huh. Now I'm like picturing like The Cure in spandex and big hair and well, they already had big hair, but
and the cute lipstick.
Yes. Robert Smith and his smeared lipstick. That's like.
But I like that he does that though, because I think to me that signals to me that he understands how gloomy his music can be.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's part of kind of making fun of that a little bit by trying to have the outward appearance of being glammed up a little bit.
The thing is he's always been his own person, because even with like the eyeliner and the lipstick and all that stuff, he was like wearing Nike high tops through a lot of the 80s.
Yeah,
and that's not very goth. Where's the combat boots?
and he fought Mecha Streisand, so he did save the world.
Oh, that's right. They did that I never saw that South Park episode. I've always wanted to.
Yeah.
But I never did.
Cartman found a triangle, and that triangle would help Barbara Streisand turn into Mecha Streisand, but Robert Smith ended up coming to South Park to save the day, and then punched Barbara Streisand in the nose, and they ended up destroying the triangle.
Oh my goodness. How have I not seen this episode?
Well, it's part of the first season. So
I remember seeing did you ever see the Warcraft episode?
Yeah. It's funny that episode because the villain in that episode, the big fat guy that was looking to that ended up screwing the rest of them, looked like somebody I used to work with at the Geek Squad. So when that episode came out, we had a lot of fun with that.
Oh my god! I was playing World of Warcraft at the time that episode came out, and I literally logged out of the game. I'm like, okay, I gotta go watch the South Park episode.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So track 9 is called Screw.
If you listen to this, you'll be screwed. No, I'm kidding.
No, Tim.
You are screwed.
No, I like this song a lot. It's got an interesting tempo and interesting melody, and it's not like the other songs, and that's why I like it.
I did. I actually like the guitar riff in the opening.
Yeah, it's got a great guitar work as well.
I like the opening riff, and then as the note says here, then the song starts.
Oh, you wound me again.
Yeah,
my heart is breaking. You've broken me, Tim.
Yeah, last week it was country, now it's this.
I know. Actually, yeah, these two go hand in hand, don't they? I like that song a lot. The last track 10, is called Sinking, and this song is very gloomy. It's very sad, and when you listen to it, if you listen to it with a critical ear, like I did, and I'm like, wow, this sounds like it could have been on Disintegration. So he was definitely playing around with some of the long drawn out melodies and very, very gloomy lyrics that he did on the entire Disintegration album, because now Disintegration is a masterpiece in my opinion. I mean, we're not talking about it right now, but it is a masterpiece in my opinion. It's the perfect rainy day gloomy album ever.
For me, the note I had, it's a great song for upper middle class white people to listen to when they think life is getting them down.
Oh my goodness, that's harsh.
Again, probably due to his age at the time, you could, someone in my 40s, I could tell when he was singing that he was in his 20s or at least younger than me. It just, I couldn't connect with it. I couldn't connect with it. And
well, I think some of the, you saying that makes me think that one of the reasons that I still like this album so much, I'm sure some of it is nostalgia for me. Because I was listening to this, when I was, 18, 17, 18, still, when you're at that stage in your life, you're still trying to figure out how you feel about things and what to think about things and all of that sort of stuff. You're figuring things out.
I mean, I was moody at that age myself, and really the only person that would have stories about that would be my sister. But it's not like she'll ever be on the show to tell them. So,
about that, I heard from your sister. She wasn't real pleased about the things you were saying about her.
She doesn't like the truth?
It's not the way she remembers it. So...
I claim fake news.
You claim fake news. Claim fake news.
It's a conspiracy.
Yeah, it's a conspiracy. Me and your sister are conspiring against you, Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Anyway, so The Cure, The Head on the Door. I think it's worth listening to. I love this album, and I will always love this album. And everything Tim said is wrong.
No.
Everything Tim said was his opinion, and he has entitled to his opinions.
Exactly.
Just like everybody else in this world.
I mean, Robert Smith is going to be in the same grouping as I would put Trent Reznor in Nine Inch Nails. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter whether I like this album or not. You can't argue The Cure's place in rock history. The ones I can relate to, like the first song on the album, was a really, really good song. Definitely appreciate that, and definitely respect their work. I'm not going to listen to it again, but that's just my taste in music. I don't particularly care for music that goes that gloomy unless there's a great guitar solo in the middle.
Yeah,
or some strippers in the video. I don't know.
And I guess also too, this kind of gives you and some of our other listeners insight into where my head was at when I was a teenager. I was in it.
You're like those goth kids in South Park,
I never really dressed at the goth part, but I was into the music. The music got me, but the pale face makeup, and yeah, I couldn't. Well, also at the time I couldn't afford to dress goth because it involved too much lace, and I couldn't find the clothes that would fit me, or I probably would have tried.
Yeah.
So no, I was more of a grunge girl.
Me.
Because you can go to Goodwill and deck yourself out for like $10.
Yeah. Me, I was just poor growing up, so I couldn't dress like anything other than what my mother could get her hands on, which was flannel, but bad flannel. It was
flannel?
It was almost like she would find ones that would have like the shiny buttons that would press down, and it looked like I was like doing a cosplay of like Sylvester Stallone from the movie Rhinestone.
Oh, good Lord.
At least that's how it felt.
Sylvester Stallone cosplay from the movie Rhinestone.
Yeah.
That's a very evocative image.
Yeah. Thanks, Mom.
I wish I could have met your mom.
Well, she's in the closet. No.
It's true, she is. She's in the closet.
For folks that don't know, she was cremated, and I encouraged her to get cremated just to tell jokes like that.
Because Tim is terrible.
Well,
terrible Tim.
Well, it started off, there was a 20th anniversary Monty Python special on HBO. It was filmed at the Colorado Just for Laughs festival or something like that. But for a point of reference, one of the members of Monty Python passed away in '89, Graham Chapman. During the talk on HBO, they all the living original members came out, and then they brought out an urn with Graham Chapman, there, and they're just talking. Halfway through, Terry Jones accidentally bumps the urn and it falls to the ground. and then they start trying to pick it up and kind of get the dust back in the urn, and then they have a butler come out with a hand
with a little hand broom or hand vac,
a hand vacuum.
Oh my god, a dust buster! They dust busted his ashes.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
it was hilarious, and it was just, after that it was just like, I'm going to encourage my mother to get cremated.
Just for the laughs.
Just for the laughs,
Sorry you're dead, Ma. Just for the laughs.
Yeah, no.
All right, so what are we listening to this coming week? What do I gotta listen to now? Please
I had a few choices.
Please don't let it be country.
I was thinking Garth Brooks album.
No. No.
I decided against that.
And this will be our last episode.
I was thinking, why not listen to something a little mellow?
Okay, so we just listened to The Cure, and now you want to take it even more mellow?
Well, it's an album that was released in 1995 by this little trio based out of England. This little trio called Motorhead. It's an album called Sacrifice.
Okay, I think I'll probably like this.
Yeah.
Because I do like the metal.
Yeah. So next week's album will be Sacrifice from Motorhead. And with that, another episode of Friends Talking Nerdies in the books.
Yay. Hopefully I won't cough next week.
Yeah. Well, it'll probably be me doing that, you know.
Yeah. More than likely I'll end up giving it to this guy. And
yeah.
Poor Tim. We'll have my bugs.
I never publicly said that story, like in my 20s, because we were talking about it earlier about phlegm and whatnot. And,
oh, God.
yeah, in my 20s, I had this pretty severe sinus, and it was like, early 20s, and pretty severe sinus infection for like 2 weeks. It got to the point where it hurt to like swallow. And then one time I just sneezed, the most painful sneeze I ever had. But whatever I had in my lungs came out of my nose and into my hand, and I'm 6'5". I got a pretty big size hand, and it filled up my left hand with goop.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Why didn't you go to the doctor?
Money.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
Lack of universal health care.
Yeah, we're not in Europe, you know.
Yeah, we don't live in Canada.
Yeah. But anyway, so that was fun. Anyway, we will see you next week.
See you next week.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy on iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, as well as Spotify. Remember to support Friends Talking Nerdy on Patreon. Goodbye, darling.